Greetings, Otaku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to wrap up my month of Miyazaki movie reviews with my review of Laputa, Castle in the Sky, right here on Otaku Assemble! Weekly, as always, here to bring you the latest in this week's month of Miyazaki movie review. So, as I said, in order to wrap up this special month of Miyazaki segment that I have chosen for the month of March 2012, I will give you all my thoughts and my take on Laputa, Castle in the Sky. Before I jump in this review, I want to take a minute to address the rant that was at the beginning of my Legend of Korra episodes 1 and 2 review. Just so you all know, I have spoken with Sawyer 7 Mage, and that whole issue's been resolved. There's no bad blood, there's no animosity, there is no flame war. You don't believe me? You can check the comments of that video where you will see our conversation. Clearly, like in most things, there was a misunderstanding, and both of us understood the other's position, and we were able to bring that conflict to a resolution. So fear not, that's been resolved. See, people, this is how adults in the YouTube anime community settle their differences. So I want to go ahead and I want to thank Sawyer 7 Mage for taking the time out to resolve that with me. And I will admit, I kind of pulled the trigger on that whole thing a little bit sooner than I should have. So, but as I said, it's been resolved. So, with that said, let's jump into my review of Laputa, Castle in the Sky. Now, quick thing. As always, I will be referencing the official Wikipedia page for this film, but also, this is actually the first in my month of Miyazaki reviews where I'm actually reviewing this film from memory. Unlike Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, and Howl's Moving Castle. Although I do own Castle in the Sky, I haven't watched it as often as the previously 3 films that I just mentioned. So, so yeah, we will be going off memory for this review. I'll try as best as I can. But anyway, let's jump into this. So, Laputa, Castle in the Sky, also known as Tenko no Shiro Laputa, or simply Laputa, retitled Castle in the Sky for release in the United States, is a 1986 film written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki. It is the first film created and released by Studio Ghibli, and Laputa, Castle in the Sky won the Anime Grand Prix in 1986. So, a brief synopsis of the film. Laputa, Castle in the Sky is the story of a young girl named Shida, and okay, I had to had to fix the page. It was screensaver came on. Anywho, but Laputa, Castle in the Sky is the story of a young girl named Shida who has been who is actually being held captive by Colonel Mosca and his armed forces. The film takes place in a futuristic setting where mankind has actually built cities, floating cities in the sky. However, due to a catastrophe that took place, it has forced mankind to live back on the ground. And so what you have is a world filled of these gigantic landscapes, these floating dilapidated cities, if you will, war-torn and destroyed, and so a bunch of landscapes of these buildings in the clouds, these buildings in the skies, but also due to that advancement in technology, you also have a lot of aircrafts, a lot of airships and whatnot. And this brings me to this has also led to somewhat of sky piracy, if you will. The film does feature a crew of sky pirates led by Dola, who's the captain, and in fact that entire crew is family. It's Dola, the captain, and her sons that make up that crew. But there are other crews like theirs, and of course, with that said, there's also a sky military, if you will. So that's pretty much the setting of the story. But the plot in which that keeps the story going is that Sheeta, the young female protagonist that I mentioned earlier, she is able to evade her captors, and so she takes refuge on the ground, and that's when she meets a young man named Pazu. And Pazu is the son of a pilot, an inventor, if you will. And so in his discovery of Sheeta, and then their interactions with Dola and her crew of sky pirates, and then of course with Colonel Mosca and his forces steadily pursuing them, what happens in the movie is that we get this grand adventure that three major themes or three major goals are at play in this film's plot. Number one, the quest into Sheeta's past, into her heritage. Number two, the search for Laputa, the almost fabled and almost mythical floating city. Laputa has the reputation of being the last floating city. It's somewhat of a perpetual Atlantis, if you will, and it is greatly sought after by many people in the world, by Colonel Moscow and his forces, by many space pirates, including Dola and her crew. And like I said, it is that world's version of Atlantis. So that's the second main plot point, main plot element, if you will. And the third is the mystery of the crystal in which Sheeta has in the pendant around her neck. We find out that that crystal is very important, especially once they actually find Laputa, and when they find out that the crystals are actually at the core of that city. So with that said, let's jump into the cast. Now, the English voice cast have a few recognizable names, such as Anna Paquin, who does the voice for Sheeta. We have we have James Vanderbeek as the voice of Pazu. Of course, Jim Cummings, who is a very popular English voice actor. He's done multiple voices, various voices. Andy Dick, but of course, in my opinion, I think the breakthrough performance in the cast for this film, in the English voice acting cast, is Mark Hamill, who expertly does the voice of Colonel Mosca. I mean, a spectacular performance. I've stated in past videos, Mark Hamill's one of my favorite English voice actors. He does a phenomenal job with actually I would go as far as say every role he takes, and this is no exception. He does a great job with that. So jumping into the writing and jumping into the dialogue and whatnot, this is a very well written film. Of course, you can refer to the Wikipedia page. The influences, such as, Gulliver's Travels. There are various mythological references and influences in this film, ranging from, biblical to Hindu legends. And then, of course, there are also multiple cultural influences that inspired the architecture in the film, the environments, the background settings, so on and so forth. So, but yeah, the story follows. The story is almost archetypal in a way. It does kind of follow the whole the whole archetypal narrative archetype that I spoke about before, about the little girl in the fantasy world. Granted that Sheeta does, her entire adventure takes place in her real world, but by the time we get to Laputa and we see how fantastical that place is, like I said, it loosely follows that narrative. In many ways, it also follows the narrative of the monomyth of the hero's journey, in which case Sheeta is actually the hero, and just the manner in which how her quest begins, how it ends, the characters that she meets, and the quest for her past, but also the grand realization that occurs in the film's climax, when we discover the root of Sheeta's origin. All of that kind of mirrors the hero's journey. So that's another another thing at play with the film. And then, as I said, the dialogue is very well done. The film, like I said, working with many elements, much like how Howl's Moving Castle did, where we have these dramatic elements, we have a romantic story forming, we have a very Castle in the Sky is hilarious, very comical, but like I said, all those elements are very well woven, and they're very well conceived. Now, the animation. For a film that was released in 1986, this film actually does have really good animation. I would probably even argue breakthrough animation for the time. It's done almost I think it is done entirely in traditional 2D animation, and it's just a beautiful piece. And it's, like I say, it's very spectacular to see that Studio Ghibli was able to do this way back when. I mean, this film is what, 26 years old. Yeah, 26 years old, and it's still one of the best Japanese animated films, in my opinion. It's really good. The music is also really good. I would probably, well, I'm actually at a loss of words for the music in the film. I'm trying to compare it, but for any of you who follow Miyazaki's work and who follow Studio Ghibli's releases, Castle in the Sky, I would probably put Castle in the Sky's music along lines with maybe My Neighbor Totoro, and maybe even Spirited Away, in the sense that a lot of the music is very whimsical, and it does have that sort of that sort of fantastic feel to it. But at the same time, I remember during some of the action scenes, the music in that I would probably coincide with more along the lines of Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind's music. So, like I said, you have a nice blend of it, and I feel like this film's music kind of embodies the tone and really the spirit of Studio Ghibli and of the films they produce. So, with that said, my final thoughts on the film. Once again, I would give this 5 out of 5 stars. It really is a very beautifully made film. This is one for all ages. I think for all intents and purposes, this is a family film. This is a film that kids can enjoy as much as parents can. And yeah, with that said, this will wrap up my my first month of Miyazaki movie reviews. Like I said, this is the first because many of you have requested that I do this again, and I'm not sure when. Especially with the rest of the spring 2012 OAW schedule about to hit full flame with next Sunday when Game of Thrones returns. Once Game of Thrones, and then of course when Legend of Korra picks up on Nickelodeon, you know, that schedule will be in full swing. So I'm not sure when I will revisit Month of Miyazaki. Right now I'm eyeing the summer, maybe June, possibly June. And right now the films in which I'm looking to review then would be, right now I'm looking at Nausicaa the Valley of the Wind, My Neighbor Totoro, Porco Rosso, and probably Whispers of the Heart. Those are the 4 films I'm eyeing right now, with honorable mentions being Graves of the Firefly, even though I know that's not a Miyazaki film, and or at least I don't think it is. I don't think it's a Miyazaki film. And the second would be Gido Senki, also known as Tales from Earthsea, which is a Goro Miyazaki film. Which, to be honest with you all, the only reason why I'd be reviewing it is to compare and contrast it to the Earthsea books, in which it is inspired by, and pretty much, I mean, that's gonna be a bad review. That good things won't be said about that film. But actually, I have to add 2 more films to the honorable mention list: Ponyo, and then the Barro Ariadne. However, seeing as how I got 4 films on an honorable mention list, that could possibly lead to a 3rd Month of Miyazaki. So, but anywho, in the comments below, let me know what you think about the film, and let me know what you think about you know, another Month of Miyazaki, or maybe 2 more Month of Miyazakis. Let me know what you all think. Like I said, if I get a lot of requests for them, I would not mind reviewing more Studio Ghibli films. So with that said, this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, signing off. That's my timer, and until next time, peace.